figure I'm going to do a, we're going to go ahead and do a 30-ounce tumbler right now. And I'm going to start doing this from start to finish. Alright. Don't mind me, I look a mess. Alright, so first what we're going to do is we printed out 2 images here. I'm not going to do this one right now, I'm going to do this one after. Actually, no, I'm going to do this one first. We'll do this one afterwards. Alright, so we're going to do this one. Good old Bernie, right? Okay, so what I did was I trimmed with scissors the top and bottom. As you can see there. The sides, I always use the cutter for the sides. Now the cutter I have, I got on Amazon. It's not the best cutter in the world. I had to drill a hole in the side of the handle. I had to hammer the handle in and drill a hole just for it to snap in. It doesn't snap in all the way to lock. But anyways, we're going to trim the 2 sides, and you want to get as close to the edge of the sides as you can. And this is a 30-ounce tumbler. Okay. So it's nice and trimmed on both sides, as you can see there. I'm going to flip the paper over, and then I'm actually going to do it sideways. So the side where the seam's going to go, right up top here. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to take our heat tape. Nice big long strand. And we're going to go across the whole side. Make sure you do not overlap onto the side. It's on that side. Just make sure it stays on the paper itself. You can overlap the top and bottom. Make sure you see a little bit of white along that edge. And do not stretch. So don't pull your hands apart and stretch. Just do it right on there. You want to do it nice and light, because what happens when you stretch it, this will actually start to crease up like that, and you don't want it to happen. Alright, so I'm going to go right here and set my zone. And with this hand, you can actually wiggle it to make sure it stays on the inside of the white. This helps with the seam so it doesn't bleed through the seam at all. And after you do that, just push it down nice and tight so that there's no bubbles in the heat tape, okay? Alright, now we have a top and we have a bottom. What I do is the heat tape hangs over both sides, but I'm going to cut the one on the bottom. You do not need the one on the bottom. Cut it right off. Okay, now we have the one on the top. What's nice about that is you know this is the top. So when you put it together on your mug, on your tumbler, I have a little tool here I got on Amazon as well. This is nice because it holds the tumblers nicely. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to place your hand after you... I always use a rag to clean the tumbler. Put my hand on the inside, just clean it. I don't use alcohol or any of that kind of stuff, because what happens is if any residue... Alcohol leaves a little bit of a residue on the tumbler, and it actually will affect the finish of the tumbler. So I always use just a regular rag. Try not to touch it with your fingers, because your fingers have oil in it. I put it down right there. And now what I'm going to do here, this is the new bottom. I know in my other video I have a different way of doing the bottom around the edges. And now I have a new way. What I'm doing is, and I'm going to try to show you this way. Okay, so I'm having it flat. I'm actually going to move this out of the way, so you can see it on the table. Alright, so we're going to lay it flat. Make sure the seam is on the inside, okay? So we're going to make sure the tumbler is flat, and you can kind of like loosen it up just to make sure that it lines up right across the top, it lines up right across the bottom, right? Now, what I did in the past is I would tape the bottom down like this after I'm done. Well, I found that I'm still getting a little bit of the white marks on the bottom when I'm doing that because it's still creasing just enough where you don't want that to happen. So, now what I'm doing is, carefully, I'm letting go of the paper just a little bit, just loose enough, and I'm lifting up. So I'm actually going to lift this up just enough so you can actually see, and you can judge it, probably about 1/4 of an inch or so off the bottom. Okay, so you can see it off the table there. What that does is you can see the bending of the tumbler is right there. So I'm actually flat right against the top part just before the bending. Okay, so that's what I like to do now because it gets a nice clean look on the bottom. Make sure you don't go too high. And then what we're going to do is you're going to take this, once you have that all in place, just push this as tight as you can. So just squeeze both hands together like that. Take your heat tape and you're going to take it right on here and you're going to pull. So just try to take your thumb and put it over and just pull nice and tight so that it's really tight in the middle. Okay? Now what we're going to do here is we're going to take our heat tape, and the way things work scientifically, when you're doing a heat tape there, if you just go straight, you're going to start getting it to bunch up. So what we do is we do it on an angle. If you do it on an angle all the way across, you actually that going that way and then this one going this way, it creates a nice tight seal. So what I do is I take my thumb, I put my thumb on the heat tape, and I tug and tape. Okay? It's important to tug and tape because you're actually pulling that paper nice and tight together. Because you do not want any air bubbles getting into underneath that paper. So you pull, pull, get up here, and pull, and you go right up to the edge of the top. At the top you can go straight. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing right down over here. Going the opposite way. So it's nice and tight. You can actually see where there's a little bit lifting up over here. We can fix that with another piece of tape there. There we go. Alright. Now some of you might do the elastic bands across the bottom, across the top. I have not done that yet. I haven't needed to. The way I do the top is I'll actually take the tape that's coming out here and I'll tape that on the inside. Okay, just like that. And then what I do is I just bend the top over. What we're trying to do here is some people will actually tape the paper on the inside like this. And what happens is when you do that, you get a lot of creases going across the top. So basically, I just leave it the way it is. I don't put anything on the top. If you want, if you feel a little bit more comfortable, you could just put a piece of heat tape going across the top. You could also do the silicone bands that people are using as well. I actually have some on order. I'm going to test those out. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the tumbler upside down and I'm just going to flatten it down. Okay, so everything's flat on the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I want to make sure the bottom is nice and tight. I don't want no air getting in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take heat tape, and right where the seam is, you're going to tape half up and half down. But first you're going to put it kind of on it first, just like this. And you're going to hold this and you're going to pull nice and tight. And you're going to do this all the way around. Just pull it nice and tight. And that's going to create a nice tight fit right across there. Okay? So as you can see, it's starting to bend in because I did it nice and tight. I did see a mistake. I'm going to fix that right now. I'm just going to take this off once. Be careful when doing it. I'm actually going to do that over one more time here, only because what you can do right here in the top part, because if you don't do this, just take one more piece of tape and flatten this top part. Just pull this way. You have to make sure you're not getting any bubbles there, okay? Because what happens is sometimes this will actually start to come up, and it'll actually, when you put the tape around, it'll buckle right there. So you want to make sure you don't buckle that. Okay, take the big long piece of tape, and we're going to start right here. Okay, and we're actually going to pull. Again, half on, half off. And you can see it buckling in. And then we're just going to take our thumb and just push it straight up, right across. Don't go on the side, don't go left or right, just go straight up so you don't get any buckling at all. Okay. Great, that looks good. Alright, now we're going to get our little tumbler holder again out. And what we're going to do is we're going to put one piece of heat tape going across here. When you're using shrink wrap, it's really hard to get off if you don't have something to be able to pull off the shrink wrap. So we actually put a shrink wrap going all the way across here, and it acts as a pull. So when you go to take the shrink wrap off, you can just pull the tape off. We have our tape right across the seam here. And you can tuck that right on the inside as well. And just push down nice and tight. This will give you a nice tight seam right across the middle there. Alright, so we're almost ready to roll. Now we're going to put some shrink wrap on. Alright. Show you how I do that. Make sure when you're doing the shrink wrap, I use the... I'm actually testing out some from my buddy, who's sending me some shrink wrap to test out. But I do get this one from Amazon or Condi. Both have the same exact stuff. And it's actually 5 inches by 10 inches long. So it fits a 30 ounce pretty nice. So that's what it looks like. And as you can see, I didn't tape down the top part. I just don't really feel like I have to. I'm going to take our gloves because with the heat shrink it does get hot. And I'll take my little gun. Let me go over this way, my little heat gun. And of course I'm falling down. That's what happens when you're trying to do this by yourself. Alright, let's see. So I have my little heat gun right over there. Make sure the shrink wrap is right in the center. Okay? And we're going to go with the heat gun. It's going to take a second for the heat to really heat up. And you'll see it working. And just turn the tumbler as you go. You don't want to get too close to the shrink wrap because it will burn the shrink wrap. You do want to get all the wrinkles out. Get the bottom nice and tight. Top. And I kind of go on an angle to the top and bottom just to make it nice and tight on those. And I want it to look smooth, so I go up and down like this and I kind of just get the wrinkles right on out. Alright, there we go. Alright, so now I have my oven set. It's actually at exactly 400 degrees. I have it set for 410 degrees here, but it actually nicely did And my thermometer says 400 degrees, which is perfect. I got 16 minutes left to cook these with. So I'm going to put these in now. And what I do is you can actually see the heat tape through the shrink wrap. And what I do is I'm going to put this in this way with that sticking out towards me. The reason why I'm going to do that is because within 2 minutes, I'm actually going to turn the tumbler, and then we're going to put you can actually see the design coming through. So we're going to start right here. Alexa, set timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
I really like the fact I can just slide that in like that, okay? As you heard me, I set the time for 2 minutes. That's not the time we're going to be using. That's just to turn it, okay? So after 2 minutes, we're actually going to take it out. We're going to turn it 180 degrees, and then we're going to set it for 2 minutes and 15 seconds, okay? While we're waiting, I will see if anybody got any questions. On 180 degrees, and then we're going to set it for 2 minutes and all right, we're almost at the 2 minute mark. There it is. Alexa, off. Again, I like the way the doors open. You can just open one at a time. We're going to spin this so I can see the front of it. Perfect. I'm going to close that up. Alexa, set timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now. By the way, you have 2 new notifications. You can find them on the home screen. Or just say, read my notifications.
Thank you, Alexa. All right, so I just turned it. We're going to wait another 2 minutes. Usually it's about 2 minutes and 15 seconds, but I had a little delay in between, so I figured it's going to be about that. What's nice about doing the shrink wrap over taping it, if you're going to do a taping method, you cannot see the image popping through like you can on here. With the shrink wrap, it really allows you to see the image, so you can actually see it coming through. Once it starts coming through a lot, you know that thing is done. So just keep an eye on that. And you can already see the image, and I can see it through the camera too, that it's coming out good. Check a couple things in here about the oven. It's really close to the top on that part, but it seems like it's holding out good. I think for the next one, I might actually turn off the top burner and see how that works on the next one. So far, this is looking pretty good. Images are really starting to pop. Alright, what do we have for time here? The timer's gonna go off. And that looks really good. I can see it really popping now. My temperature dropped down to about 380, so that's good. Alexa, off. Alright, so let's see how this thing came out. What I do is I have a little pen. It's not really a pen, it's like a tool that allows me to grab the tape here. It's a needle on the end I use for weeding. Alright, so we're just going to pull this off here. Remember, I haven't done anything in this oven yet, so this will be a first for me in the oven. So I might have to adjust some temperature, but I don't know. This looks pretty dang good. That came out really nice. Alright, so here it is. Got a little shrink wrap on the bottom, which I'll get out afterwards. And as you can see, these colors are popping. That's a little hot. Grab my rag. Yeah, that came out nice. And as you can see, the top, I have no marks on the top. And there's no marks on the bottom, no creases on the bottom. It's perfect. Alright, yeah, see now the tape will just come off the bottom. If you get any on the bottom, it just comes off. Once it cools down, it'll peel right off. So if you get any shrink wrap on the bottom there. Definitely want to get that off before you do any branding. If you're going to do your branding on the bottom, like I am, which I'm setting up the other press right now. Let's see what the temperature is at. We're not there yet. So if you want to hang with me, I'll actually show you how I do the branding as well. Okay, let's see. Just getting all the tape off the bottom. Perfect. Normally don't get this much tape on the bottom. Oh, came off nicely. I just take a razor blade and I'll get any tape or anything on the bottom, anything on the inside of the mug. Sometimes you'll get like a little bit of residue on the inside of the mug, on the tumbler I should say, and you can actually take a razor blade and go around this side here. Alright, I'm going to switch you guys over here. Actually, I'm going to show you the tumbler now. I'm going to actually do a little, show you what it looks like in my little spinny tool. And as you can see, coming in from the top, there's no marks on the top. It's nice and clean. I didn't use any rubber band elastics or silicone elastics or anything on it. Okay, and then the bottom as well. And by lifting it up just a little bit, you see how clean that comes out. Just by lifting it up. So you see a little bit of the white bottom, but that's perfect. Okay, all right, we're gonna come on over this way. I'm gonna turn this bad boy off. And I'm gonna show you how to do the branding. Make sure when you're doing the branding that the mug is actually cooled down. Alright, so we got my put out here. Let me make sure we have a good view. Oh yeah, that's good. Alright, so I print out a whole bunch of my branding for the bottom. Okay. And that way I have it laying around. I can just cut one out and use it whenever I need to use it. And all I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut around in a circle. And by the way, my take on this oven, I love it so far because this came out really good. I'm very, very happy how this came out. There was no fluctuation with the oven. It was perfect. Alright, so now we got my little logo. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it on top of a tumbler here. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to lay it flat on the table. The smaller end or whatever end doesn't really matter. Take a little piece of heat tape and we're going to go right along. We're going to lay it down. I usually lay it down on the table, but I'll show you up here. I'm going to put a piece of heat tape ahead of time right across the top here. Okay. Make sure it's sticking over the ledge a little bit. There we go. Just like this. See how it looks here? So that's what I want to do. Now I'm going to position where I want my, a little bit more of the shrink wrap right there. Let me get that off. Position it where I want my logo to go. And once you get the spot you're looking for, just tape this one end down, just like that. Okay. Now we're going to take another piece of tape, and we're going to tape this end down. So again, we're going to put a little bit over the edge, and you want to make sure it's flat. So you're just going to run your finger straight across, and just flatten it out. Okay. Now, if you notice, I have edges here, so that's still part of my logo on this side. So I'm going to tape all those down too. And we're just going to tape it. And tape this down. There we go. Let's make sure it's taped on this side as well. Anywhere your logo is going to hit, you want to make sure it's taped so it's solidly down. Now we're going to take a piece of what I use is painter's masking paper. Let's see here, I got some right here. And I get them from Home Depot. Big, huge sheets. They're 18 inches wide by 60 yards. And they're like $4 at Home Depot. So this is what I use. Okay, as you can see here. And what I have over here is I have a nice roll cutter. So if you're not doing tumblers and you're doing other things, I have a nice roll cutter that actually holds the paper right over there. Alright, so now we're going to take going to cut this up so it fits on top of your tumbler. Now what this is going to do is just going to protect the top of the heat press from getting any ink or anything on it. So you're just going to tape it down to the tumbler. Somebody asked if the tape will stick to the tumbler and cause a yellow line. I haven't had that happen because I'm not putting it in the oven for one, and I'm not heating the side of the tape. I'm just heating the top of the tumbler. Alright, so my press is not ready yet. It's almost ready. So while I'm waiting, I'm going to answer some more questions on here. you guys have any questions, let me know. You can put it in the comments and I'll try to answer them while I am waiting for this to heat up. We're at 360 degrees on this. I want to get this up to at least 380, so we got another 20 degrees or so. While I am waiting, I guess I can actually start my other mug, my other tumbler. So I can kind of repeat the process that I was doing earlier. Someone said the cutter was in the way, so let's see if I can do it with the cutter out of the way. Oh, that's another thing. When this oven, it'll actually beep when it's done. I like that. Turn this off. Perfect. I have my printed out sheet already. I'm going to take my trusty scissors. I'm going to cut the top. I got very sharp scissors. Alright, so now we're going to trim the sides. Do not pull, like I said before, just do it lightly. Just make sure you see white. Just a little bit of white. And that's a little bit too much white. That's why I got my glasses on. I'm getting old. Whatever you do, make sure you don't pull the tape. I've done that and this whole thing gets all ruined doing that way. And just nice and tight along the seam. Okay, lift it up. We have our top, we have our bottom. Take it, cutting the tape off the bottom. And a little doohickey here. Just like that. My next tumbler. Now I did this one in the oyster oven, and what I did was I turned the oven sideways to try to get it to work. And what happened was, and I'll show you, it wasn't pretty. I'll show you that right now. I'm gonna have to throw this in the happy accidents page. But this is the tumbler that I did in the oyster, and you can see it's still green. So the black did not pop out the way it's supposed to. Alright, what are we at over here? We are at, oh, we can go, but let me finish this and then we'll go ahead and do the bottom. Alright, so I have this set up. Again, I'm going to take it off. Just for the meantime, I'll get this out of the way for you. And I'll put it on the table. Make sure it lines up right here. Okay? Make sure it's nice and tight. And again, just lift up, just loosen up your hands just enough to be able to lift the paper up enough. There you go, that's perfect. Make sure it still lines up straight, because that's key. When you're lining it up straight on the top, if you cut all this right, that's why I use the cutters, because I want to make sure everything cuts up nice and straight, and that will allow you to get a nice perfect seam down the middle. Okay, while I have this in my hand, the seam's going to go under, and you're going to push tight as you can right there. And lock it in. Piece of heat tape. There we go, straight across. It's nice and tight. Again, I'm going to take my heat tape here and go on an angle every time. Nice and tight. I should have got some stock and heat tape, let me tell you. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and show, I'm going to finish this and then I'll show you how to do the bottom. So I'm just going to finish this up since we're almost already done. Alright, so first I'm going to tuck this in just like that, okay? And then we're just going to tuck these edges over 90 degrees. Move this out of the way. We're going to take this and kind of flatten it down, but kind of make sure you don't buckle any of the paper as you're doing it until you get a nice flat surface, just like that. Okay, and now we're going to take our heat tape, and since the seam is going, this way, I'm going to want to pull this way. Okay, so we're going to take another piece of heat tape. Hey, I messed up on that one. My wife, who I guess is watching, doesn't like it when I mess up. She yells at me. That's a shout out to my amazing wife. Hey, Sarah. Okay, now we're just going to pull. Of course, all my employees know not to mess up either. But we all make mistakes, right? Alright, so just pull right along there. Perfect. And we're going to thumb it up. Now what this is doing, it's also sealing it so the air is not going to go from the bottom. Perfect. And now we're going to take our little, and now we're going to do the pull. Nice and straight across. Alright, so now we just got to shrink wrap that up and put it in the oven. So I'll do that in a little bit. I'm going to have you guys come on over. I'm going to show you how I do the bottom of the tumbler. Now that my press is nice and heated, we're at 398 degrees. I'm going to wait till it beeps because I know it's going to beep in a second. That way it doesn't beep while I'm doing it. Bear with me 1 second here. And there it is. There's the beep. And actually, I'm going to turn this on. I want to turn my oven back on while we're doing this too. Let's see. Temperature to 410. Start. Oh, see, I messed up. I didn't do the convention first. Start. There we go. All right, so now we're gonna do the bottom of the tumbler that I did. Everybody can see the press. Very easy to do. After you tape it down and you got everything on it, you're gonna go in and set the timer for 60 seconds, and all you do is going to hold it right up. Okay? Be careful, don't hold it too high. If you want to use gloves, go ahead and use gloves. Just don't touch it too high because it will get hot up in this area, and you don't want to slide your hand and actually hit it on the surface because it's very hot. So just make sure you hold it tight down here. Alexa, set timer for 60 seconds. And all you're going to do is go up here and push. I think everybody can see that. And I'm just going to push on the top. Make sure you're flat. Don't angle it by accident or, tilt your hand a little bit. Either way, you want to make sure it's straight and flat. Do, 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 do. And if you guys need a logo done on the bottom, your website and your name on the bottom, let me know. I can do those for you. Or there's a tutorial on how to and a template on our our Facebook page on how to do this as well. But if you want me to do it, we have a link on our Facebook page. It's only $5, and we will go and actually design it for you. Just make sure you tell us the color you want, maybe a certain font. Okay, Alexa, off. Alright, I'm going to move you guys back over here while I do this. I recommend cooling down the bottom of the tumbler before doing what I'm going to do. of course, I'm not going to cool it down. Just because it gets very, very hot. Let me make sure you can see that. As the camera goes sideways again. Looks like I'm going to need a new tripod. This one's not very good. Alright. So now we got the tumbler. And the first thing I'm going to do is take off the top tape. Again, it's very hot, so be careful. And again, this is just to, this part of the paper is just to protect this, because the ink will seep through the paper and it will get on here. And then if you do like a shirt or something, it could actually go onto the shirt. So now we're going to take the tumbler, we're going to tilt it to the side, and be careful when doing this because you don't want to scratch up the tumbler. You just want to cut it right in half. Okay. The reason why we do that, it's going to be easier just to pull it. So now we can take this, we can pull it. And the reason why I say to cool it down a little bit before doing this is you don't want it to do any ghosting effect on the tumbler. Because if you pull it when it's too hot, you can actually create, your logo can actually ghost on the bottom of the tumbler as well. Perfect. And there you have it. My logo's on the bottom. Okay. And now I'm going to take my little rubber gummet. We do have a lot of tumblers coming in very soon, so if you're interested in getting tumblers from us, we do have some coming in. The boat should be docking anytime now. And they come with these. It also comes with the metal straws. And there you have it. We're done. Now all that's left is to put the top on. And we're going to take some pictures of it, and we'll post the video of this as we go. Any questions, just let me know. Leave it in the comments. Thank you, guys.